JD here, and as you can see, this is mastering Suzuka here today, and this is definitely my favourite track on the calendar, and I just feel I have really good pace around here, really good consistency, and this is definitely the track where I just enjoy really hooking up a good lap, which is what this lap is here today. So we're going onto the start finishing straight, getting the DRS as early as possible. So we're going to be talking through the lap now. This is actually, I think, my second lap in this tyre. So turning in at the 50 meter board, about middle of the track, so we're going to be downshifting to 4th gear, coming up through here, 5th gear. I hold it through 5th, going through here, so completely flat for its left. That's the curb finishes, that's your turning point, middle of the track again. Try and do a middle apex for this. Stay super tight to this, a 4th gear, just to really get a little bit of a bite in. As you go into the middle of the track, that's your turning point, flat out in 6th gear. Going up through 7th for this, looking at the 100 meter board as you pass that, try and clip that curb on the inside, 4th gear as the curb ends, that's your turning point. Going up through the gears now, going up into 6th as the curb finishes, that's your braking point, braking complete straight line, try and get a really late apex before short shifting to 3rd gear, coming out here and stay nice and tight as possible to minimise the distance of the track. I keep it in 7th gear through here just to let the engine do a little bit of a braking, but as you do the 50 meter board, that's your braking turning point, half a car on that curb, try and get a little bit closer to that, just to give you a really good slingshot coming off this corner. Now going up into 8th gear now, want to be going through 130R, which is a very comfortable flat out, so as you approach this, just look for that green band, that's the turning point, try and keep it nice and smooth as possible. For this 100 meter board just before 4th gear for this first part, 3rd gear once you're in the middle of the track, just try and stay as nice and tight again to minimise the distance, DRS coming across the line, and we do it at 27.7, which is I think a very good time in this game, so especially on this platform. But now coming into the race, you can see we haven't actually shown the setup, and apologies for that because my Elgato was playing up quite a bit and it has been recently, but my setup, I'll put a link in the description, is the same as my mastering Malaysia. The only difference is that I'm using 210 wings with 11 ballast. Everything else is exactly the same, so same suspension geometry, the brakes I believe, tyre pressures, it's just with 210 wings and 11 ballast. And moving on to this now, I normally aim to put in about 29.4 laps of fuel, which equates to about 2.43 at the start of the race. And we're just going to go on board for the first few laps here, really just to talk about the mindset of what you really need to do approaching to this Grand Prix. Obviously, we've got AOR this weekend in here. I would say for qualifying, you do not want to do any more than 2 lap runs, especially if you're on a controller. If you're on a controller, I'd probably even keep it at 1 lap, because one thing I have noticed from doing a little bit of a pad and wheel tyre wear test around here is that the pad definitely struggles in tyre wear, particularly on the soft tyre towards the end of the race, but we'll be talking about strategy a little bit later in this video. But for now, going on board in this first lap, you want to be braking and using the same gears as what you did in the qualifying race, a 4th gear, 3rd through here. Nothing really you need to change at all apart from the first segment where you want to do a little lift. But now we're going to complete this first lap with a 33.1, which is pretty decent, but anything in the 31s as a second lap is a very good time. But obviously that's mainly if you're going to be in clear air, but if you are, then this is what it would hopefully look like. So you want to keep it in 5th gear through here again, really just approaching as you would do in like you do in qualifying, but you just got to turn that a little bit earlier, so about that 5 to 10 meters earlier, because you just got to counter that little understeer. But through here with the 210 wings and 11 ballast, is that almost flat out on the soft tyre, pretty much is flat out. But through here now we'll be doing a little lift and try and kiss that curb every single time. 4th gear through here under the bridge, which is what you did in qualifying as well. Around this track, it's really important to get into a rhythm where I'd say you don't want to be pushing 100% every lap, but you really want to just keep that consistency, because around here, one mistake, there's not really much of a runoff area apart from Spoon here. Every other corner has pretty much got a gravel trap, so if you go off, especially in the first sector, you're going to lose so much time for having grass in your tyres. It's going to be very painful for you, and especially tyre wear. A 1-stop is pretty comfortable around here, it definitely is, but it's not a luxury on the tyres where you can just wheel spin them all the time or spin out. You really got to keep it a little bit under control. But as you can see, coming through 4th gear through here, 3rd gear once again, And we say them rich for this whole first lap, so a full rich lap is normally about 0.4, so about 0.4 of a lap's worth of fuel, so that's something to keep in mind. But around this track, as we'll go demonstrating this lap now, you can run standard through the first and second sector pretty much. It's only on the two big straights, so the pit straight and the back straight, where rich would probably gain you maybe a tenth or two really, but it's not really going to gain you that much. And that's something a lot of people fall into the trap of, where they underfuel the car, which does definitely help for sure, makes it lighter, but they underfuel the car and they try and make themselves go quicker, but they use rich every single lap. Well, it's the opposite, sorry. Well, a little bit confusing there, but what I meant to say was basically some people actually overfuel the car, apologies, and they go rich every single lap. And yeah, that definitely helps, but that can actually burn out the engine. And going in standard, you don't actually lose that much time on the straight, is what I'm trying to say, which we eventually did say, is that standard you really don't lose as much time as you think in a straight line compared to rich, because if you're behind another car with slipstream as well, if your engine goes over 120 degrees, or sorry, over 130 degrees, then you actually start to lose a little bit of power. So sometimes it's even better to actually just being in standard behind someone, which is why I think 2.4 laps of fuel, 29.4 is pretty much the sweet spot really, because you've got that little bit of rich when you need it to really overtake someone, or if you want to pump in some quick laps at the start, you've got that in your ammo to actually back up. But you don't really need to use rich only on this main straight and the back straight as well. But you can see that other lap was pretty much in standard, and we did a 31.9 as well. So it just shows you really don't actually gain too much time. But now we're going to come in at the end of lap 8, and our tyre wear is a lot higher than it really should be. And that's because in Grand Prix mode, when you do a flying lap, you press A for a flying lap, the AI really does wear out the tyres on the out lap and on the in lap. So in reality, it wouldn't be as worn as this. My recommendation is probably going at the end of lap 9. Again, I think that's really the sweet spot where you're not going to lose too much time on someone undercutting you, and you'll easily make it to the race. Recently, I did an STS race where I pitted at the end of lap 8 because I had wing damage. I had a yellow wing for the first stint. I had to pit at the end of lap 8, and I made it to the end with about 60-ish% tyre wear. And on the soft tyres, you can easily push it into the 80s before you're at risk of a puncture. So you can easily do it from lap 7 or lap 8 really, but it doesn't really make sense to them, because you do ideally want as fresh tyres as possible for the last stint where you can comfortably push all the time. And me personally, I really like having that little advantage over someone in terms of tyre wear, for both not actually performance-wise on the track, but also I think mentally as well, knowing that you've got a faster car, you've got more grip available to you than someone who's actually pitted a lap earlier than you. So I would say end of lap 9 is the sweet spot. I've seen a lot of people go end of lap 10, which is great. For a controller, I would say probably would say the end of lap 10, because on the softs, I think it does wear about 4 to 5% a lap, 4 to 6% a lap, whereas on the wheel it's normally about 3 to 4%, about 4% per lap, which we'll be able to see at the end of this. So I recommend going to the end of lap 9, putting 29.4 laps of fuel in the start, and obviously just watching my hot lap of that qualifying 27.7. I have actually done a 27.6. Unfortunately, I couldn't record that at the time, but that was with 210 wings and 11 ballast. So that is my mastering Suzuka here today. Quick video. In terms of the wet, the same applies and how you actually really approach the track. So I could do it for next time. If you really want me to, please let me know. But this is my video. Hopefully you found it useful, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.